It is truly a shame that in this country, schools are not synonymous with a safe learning environment. Something must be done.
Millions of dollars, but they can't take it with them.
Right. Saudi prince not welcome here.
Saudi prince not welcome here.
Hello, my name is Stanley Heller. Welcome to The Struggle. The Struggle is shown on over 30 cable stations from Maine to New York City, on the internet at thestruggle.org. We record on the day of March 30th, which Palestinians mark as Land Day. This year there was an attempt for a massive march, especially in Gaza, a march up to the fences and walls around Gaza. The Israeli paper Haaretz said 30,000 Palestinians took part. It also reported that 13 were killed by Israeli soldiers, including one Palestinian who was destroyed by a tank shell. Some Palestinian leaders are urging that Palestinians inside of Israel who have Israeli citizenship walk to the border in hopes that this will be some kind of restraint on Israeli soldiers. Will there be demonstrations in the United States? Watch our show next week for more. We start with the March for Our Lives, when 1 million people in the United States and in other countries protested against the flood of gun violence. TSVN did not go to D.C. or even Hartford, but to a smaller city, Shelton. Shelton is a half-hour away by car from Newtown, Connecticut, where in 2012 occurred the Bushmaster AR-15 gun massacre. We start with still photos.
Tell me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like.
Thank you.
It is truly a shame that in this country, schools are not synonymous with a safe learning environment. Something must be done. For far too long, the American people have perished under the inaction of our elected officials. We have suffered from it, raised our voices against it, and comprised many solutions to it. Some of you may be wondering why I'm marching today. I'm marching because I'm sick and tired of the dilatory dispositions of some of our elected officials on the issue of gun safety in schools. I'm marching because I want young people to know that we have a voice and that we have the power to make a change. I'm marching because we are the change. I'm marching because I demand legislation to be passed regarding common sense gun safety in our do-nothing Congress. I'm marching because I refuse to be a target. I'm marching because I stand in solidarity with the survivors of school shootings while honoring the victims. I'm marching because, and say it with me, enough is enough! Lastly, to all the young people in the audience, let this serve as an example to what you can achieve. Stand up, raise your voices, organize, register to vote, and actually vote. These are the things that you can do to contribute to making a difference in this country, your country. Thank you. Enough is enough.
Enough is enough. Enough is enough. Schools across the nation are wondering which one will be next. And school is no place for the fear that my fellow students and I will not live to hear the dismissal bell ring. Thank you.
My name is Caitlin Botsford Tucker, and I am a social studies teacher and a mom. I'm so glad to be speaking to you today, but I am saddened by the reason for this march and the marches taking place across the country. 32 lives at Virginia Tech. One was a friend of mine. 26 lives at Newtown. 17 lives at Stoneman Douglas. The Department of Defense reports that the number of children killed by gunfire in the United States since 2012 surpasses the total number of American soldiers killed overseas in combat since 9/11. Last week, 7,000 pairs of shoes were placed on the U.S. Capitol lawn to represent those lives.
When kids are afraid to evacuate during a fire alarm, that's when we should finally realize that change needs to happen. The very things that are implemented to keep children safe are causing them fear and anxiety. As someone who wants to be a teacher, I want to feel safe at school, not just today, but always. Let's arm our teachers with resources, not weapons. Let's give them the tools they need to teach, not the tools to kill. It is a teacher's job to educate, not to fight for their lives and the lives of their students. So I ask all of you today, do not let this be the end of the conversation. Let us continue to use our voices in the right ways to make change.
The complete Shelton March of maybe 1,000 is up on our YouTube channel, Struggle Video Media. We'll also upload more of the speeches. On the morning of the march, I wrote this article for Peace News entitled, "Take the Guns Away from Most Cops, Too." I've been saying this for years. If the average police officer didn't have a lethal weapon, he or she would approach suspects differently, and there'd be less killing of suspects and police. It's the way they do things in Britain. To see the article, go to peacenews.org. Back to Palestine, Israel for a moment. There is some good news. The Israeli High Court has suspended the deportation of the 37,000 Africans. And this crowd of 20 to 25,000 Israelis is keeping up the pressure for refugee rights. The Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia is in the United States for a tour, trying to pretty up the image of his dynasty, to bask in Trump's support, and to get American capitalists to invest in his kingdom. Here he is at the White House getting Trump's praise for buying weapons and bombs, Reportedly, he was humiliated by Trump's waving the cards in front of his face as if he was just a salesperson, which he is. Though the prince's travel plans were pretty hush-hush, activists protested him in Washington, D.C., in Cambridge, Massachusetts, at MIT, and 5 times in New York City.
Let Yemen live! Let Yemen live! Let Yemen live!
22 million of a population of 27 million people in Yemen are dependent on humanitarian aid. That is the population that we are bombing. This is a line which we cannot cross.
Yemen can't wait! Yemen can't wait! Yemen can't wait! Yemen can't wait!
Expect that the Saudi prince is coming to meet with business leaders. He's planning on coming next week on Monday. He plans to stay in our city for a week, and we plan to give him hell. You may not come to this city while you are bombing people. Not in our name and not with our money. Not in our name, not with our money.
On March 26th, this was the scene in Sana'a, Yemen. Immense crowds marking 3 years of Saudi-U.S. bombing.
Grim anniversary. This is the date in 2015 when the Saudis started bombing Yemen. I'm Stanley Heller. I work for Promoting Enduring Peace, and we're active in the coalition to end the U.S.-Saudi alliance. Yay! We're here to protest the coming to New York of the chief architect of that war against Yemen, who is coming to meet with the princes of Wall Street to ask them to invest money that the 1% ripped off American workers and give it into the projects for the glory of the Saudi kingdom. I want to show you a sign before we begin, because this little demonstration here for Yemen, there's a bigger demonstration that went on today in Yemen, in Sana'a. You take a look at this thing. It's an immense crowd of people in Sana'a. Hundreds of thousands of people on the scale of what happened in Washington about guns. In Sana'a, this is just a still picture in Yemen. People just furious and angry. Why can't the war end? 3 years of bombing by Saudi Arabia, UAE, and all coordinated by your tax dollars. We pay for it. That's right. And our senators, our bloody senators this week voted for it to continue. 55 to 44. It is a shame.
We're from Peace Action, and we are not giving up on Yemen. We may have lost that vote, as in the Senate last week. 44 senators, however, supported the idea of withdrawing all U.S. military aid from the Saudi-led war on Yemen. This is a big deal. We are going to build on that. We are here. We are going to keep fighting for Yemen, the Yemenis, the Yemeni Americans that live amongst us. We are not giving up.
My name's Emily Rubino. I'm the Grassroots Campaigns Coordinator with Peace Action New York State. I'm helping to organize our 18 campus chapters across the state. It is in part to them and their student work that they've been doing on their campus that they've been working hard to make sure their student bodies know that Yemen cannot wait, that their tax dollars are going to fueling the world's
point out to you Musabaka here, who's carrying with her a sign that basically says, you can't take it with you. The Saudi prince may have millions, Lockheed may have millions of dollars, but they can't take it with them.
It's my privilege now to call on the co-founder of a great organization, Code Pink, which has done a marvelous work over the past decade in getting in the face of the politicians and speaking truth to power. The co-founder, Jody Evans.
Thank you, and thanks for all the wisdom everyone shared. We know what's wrong with the Saudi prince, but we're standing here in Wall Street. Wall Street has blood on their hands. It's a war economy that's driving this. And we're here to say to Wall Street, shame on you for meeting with a war criminal. Shame on you for funding weapons in war. It comes home to our streets. It comes home to our kids. But when are we not marching for the 5,000 children that our bombs have killed in Yemen? When do we not recognize that when you normalize violence, weapons, and wars, it comes home to you? And this is Wall Street, and they are funding it, and they are making a killing on killing. And we need to see how much it is insidious in all of our lives. We got to stop our cities from investing in war. We've got to stop our universities from investing in war. We need to stop our churches. Those weapon companies, they have returned 40% on an investment in the last 5 years. That's disgusting. That's your tax dollars going to make the rich richer. That is your tax dollars that just gets funneled through a weapons company. It destroys another country, destroys another life, and then it makes the rich richer. Are you not angry? Is it not time to divest from war?
Yes.
Divest from war. It's time to divest from war.
Divest from war. Divest from war.
And it's all of our jobs to let those people we know that they're invested in war, that their city is. We need to be building a much stronger anti-war movement. We have Bolton in the White House. We need our voices multiplied louder. Make it come home. Make people understand that we have normalized violence by heads of state, by heads of corporations, by heads of philanthropy, meeting with a warmonger. That's normalizing violence. We can't be doing it ourselves in our cities, in our churches, and our schools. We need to be letting people know and building a movement. And if you want to be engaged, please let us know at Code Pink. We've already got many cities to divest. We've got some universities to divest. We've got members of Congress now leading the way on that they've divested from taking money from weapons manufacturers. Let's keep this building because Bolton in the White House is not something to take lightly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You want to do the song?
Yeah, whatever you want.
Okay.
I have something ready to hold the Vatican.
Anybody else get up?
What's that?
Anybody else?
We're going to songs and then I'm going to speak.
How will you
Terrific. All right. While they're getting...
I'm going to read from Rabi Al-Tabani's op-ed entitled America's Duty to Help Stop Yemen's Suffering. For 3 years, I have witnessed the total destruction of my ancestors' homeland and the pain and suffering of family, friends, and millions of innocent Yemenis, as my beloved America supports Saudi Arabia's war on Yemen. I've lived in Brooklyn for many years. I went to school here and grew up in these streets. From New York, I participated in the Arab Spring, and I have organized my community for its rights. Yemeni Americans are directly impacted by this war and face extreme hardships supporting family and friends who are trapped in Yemen, or stranded through the world, and many are unable to bring children and spouses to join them here due to President Trump's Muslim ban. My husband, Bashir Othman, a Yemeni journalist, fled Yemen in January of 2016 and is facing the most difficult time of his life without me. He is caught living in limbo in India, unable to return to Yemen to visit his mother, who was recently diagnosed with cancer, and unable to join me, his wife, in New York because of the Muslim ban. For my mother-in-law, treatment in Yemen is akin to a death sentence, as the conflict has decimated Yemen's health system. Patients who still have the means and are able to leave the country have a chance of living, and those who cannot face almost certain and painful death. When the Saudi coalition launched its intervention in the conflict in Yemen in March of 2015, they proclaimed that the campaign to restore President Hadi's legitimacy would take no more than 2 weeks. It is now 3 years later. It is now 3 years later, and there is no end in sight.
Let's talk about weapons. We have someone who's an expert who can tell us some things about this. William Harton from the Center for International Policy. He's written a number of books, including one about a company that makes a lot of money off of weapons, Lockheed Martin. Here he is.
Thank everybody for coming out today. A week ago, we stood on the steps of City Hall to protest Mohammed bin Salman's visit to New York. He's on a propaganda tour of the United States, trying to wash the blood off of his hands. And we're not going to let that happen. Last week in the Senate, 44 senators voted the right way to stop U.S. support for the Saudi bombing campaign that has killed thousands of civilians. We got our senators in New York to vote the right way because of pressure, people here, organizations represented here. Robert Menendez, however, the senator from New Jersey, said he couldn't vote for the bill because it was being rushed through. Can you believe that? The people of Yemen have been dying for 3 years with U.S. bombs, U.S. aircraft, U.S. missiles supplied to Saudi Arabia in a war that was started by Mohammed bin Salman. And he's saying it's too early to vote. Give me a break. People like Bob Menendez are going to have to pay a political price for that kind of cowardice. 2 years ago, we couldn't have gotten 44 votes in the Senate. We're getting close, and we're not going to give up until this war is over, until the United States stops arming Saudi Arabia to do the murders and slaughter that they've been doing in Yemen. As was mentioned, not only are they bombing marketplaces, funerals, hospitals, water treatment plants, but they're blockading the country to keep supplies from getting in. Millions of people are on the brink of famine. They have the biggest cholera outbreak in history. And yet we have senators who say it's too soon to vote. Well, I say Yemen can't wait. 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 Yemen can't wait.
Yemen can't wait.
And then we have our narcissist in chief, President number 45, if you can believe that, who, as was mentioned, sat in the White House with Mohammed bin Salman bragging about how many weapons he was selling to Saudi Arabia. He had a little map claiming how many jobs there would be, showing which states were going to benefit from those jobs. And of course, those were states that voted for Donald Trump. Basically, he's more interested in securing his own fortune and his own political future than he is in the lives of the people in Yemen. And we can't allow that to stand. Yemen can't wait. Yemen can't wait. Yemen can't wait. Yemen can't wait. Yemen can't wait.
Yemen can't wait.
Last weekend, hundreds of thousands of people gathered in this city and all around the world to say no to gun violence. We have to say no to all kinds of violence, including the violence perpetrated by our own government by arming Saudi Arabia for its brutal slaughter in Yemen. And we're not going to let Mohammed bin Salman wash the blood off his hands by spending his money and selling off parts of his oil company and paying his public relations firms and making his political contributions through conduits and representatives, many of them close to President Trump. Everywhere he goes, there's going to be a demonstration. Everywhere he goes, there's going to be people writing, speaking out. We're not going to let him get away with it.
Today, in Yemen, we will have no food, people short of medicine. The children, they die in the hospital for lack of ammunition, for lack of medicine. Their body can resist any disease. So people just die in front of their father, mother eyes. They can't do nothing for them. Today we call in the whole world. We call in everybody. We call in Americans people. We have to stop this war.
Lift the blockade! 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 Lift the blockade!
One of the chants we did was about Aramco, the $2 trillion Saudi oil company. Aramco and its oil production has resulted in the most greenhouse gases ever produced by any other company in history. And it intends to pump every drop of oil out of Saudi Arabia for more burning. Those who appreciate current world climates take note.
Aramco, go away! Stop the war and the blockade! Aramco, go away! Stop the war and the blockade!
Stop starving Yemen! Stop starving Yemen! Stop starving Yemen!
Stop the war in Yemen! Stop the war in Yemen! Stop the war in Yemen!
Saudi prince not welcome here!
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 There were other protests later in the week, this one in front of the Gotham Hall on Broadway.
Say it loud, say it clear! Saudi prince not welcome here!
And this one in front of the famed Plaza Hotel. The prince reportedly met with Henry Kissinger and Hillary Clinton and former Mayor Michael Bloomberg and Oprah Winfrey and leaders of AIPAC, the key part of the Israel lobby. He didn't meet with Palestinian leaders of any stripe. Salman is going all in on his Trump, Israel, Saudi dynasty alliance. That's our program for today. See you next week at this time. I'm Stanley Heller for The Struggle.